3 steps to starting this intermittent fasting journey, right? And making it a lifestyle and doing it simple. You've heard about intermittent fasting and how easy it is to really lose some weight and finally see results on this journey. You've been trying forever to lose weight and yet nothing is really working. So you're like, you know what? I'm gonna try intermittent fasting. My friend's sister did it and lost 30 pounds and I know I can too. So you're like, okay, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna start today, Monday. Right? Because of course we can only start things on Monday, right? So you're gonna start on Monday and you're like, okay, let's get started. Today's my day, right? So it's 10 a.m. and you are starving. You are ready to grab the granola bar from your neighbor's desk or or run into the pantry and grab anything you can because you can't even take it anymore. And your eating window doesn't start until noon, 12. You got 2 more hours to sit here fasting and you can't even breathe, right? And so you're like, how the heck? I can barely make it past day 1. How am I gonna make this like a lifestyle? Like, I'm sure day 3 it's over. Can't do it no more. I get it. I get it. And guess what? I'm here to tell you it's not your fault. Everybody's made this thing seem so easy. And guess what? It can be easy. It can be easy with the right guidance, support, community, understanding, right? Accountability. It can be easy. But here's what I'm gonna do for you, right? Because what I don't want you to do is, it's 8:37 p.m. and you're standing by the pantry trying to figure out what you're gonna do because you finished your eating window, stopped at 8 p.m. and you want some food. So I'm gonna give you 3 steps to starting this intermittent fasting journey, right? And making it a lifestyle and doing it simple. So it doesn't feel like you're starving at 10 a.m. or you're ready to, rampage the entire pantry at 8:37 p.m. Is it rampage? I don't know. Whatever that word is, right? Rummage? I don't know. Whatever. You're not gonna do that anymore. I'm gonna give you 3 steps that's gonna get you through this intermittent fasting journey and make it a lifestyle until it feels easy for you. And then it's just like, this is how I live. What do you mean? I stop eating at this time every day. And that might be 8 p.m. It might be 7 p.m., might be 6 p.m. So if you haven't already, I would say go watch my intermittent fasting video. I talked about how I lost 120 pounds and how you can do intermittent fasting and how it works, right? Here, I'm gonna tell you how to start it. Because I talked about in the other video different types of fasting and how to really leverage different types of fasting. But I want to share with you how to get started because most people try and just jump right into it. And those are the people that are starving at 10 a.m. and rummaging through the pantry at 8:37 p.m., right? Because they didn't start correctly and then it's day 4 and they're like, forget it, I'm done with this whole intermittent fasting thing. I'd rather just be eating regular, So let's get to it, all right? Before I show you how to start this intermittent fasting thing so that you can actually do it longer than a week and make it a lifestyle, I'm gonna quickly introduce myself. I'm Ileka Falette, mom of 4, who lost 120 pounds using low carb / keto eating, intermittent fasting, and exercise, along with lifestyle changes that allowed me to do it for a lifetime, right? Kept off the weight for over 8 years now. And over that time, I actually started helping other women achieve their weight loss goals. I worked with thousands of women to lose the weight, keep it off for good, and change their relationship with food and the way they looked at diets as a lifestyle, right? So now what I do is I actually have a membership called Fit Mommy Makeover membership. And in there, we have an amazing community that's gonna help you through this journey, right? So you get accountability, community, support, and guidance. I'm there with you every step of the way. So that's what we do in the Fit Mommy Makeover community. You can decide if it's something you wanna do or not, but we're gonna give you the link right in the description. It's very low cost membership right now. So if it's something you are actually thinking about, I would say now is the time to join. All right. So go to the description, go to fitmommymakeover.co or fitmommymakeover.net or fitmommymakeover.org, because I got all those, and you can get into our low cost community. All right. So anyways, let's get back to these 3 steps. Okay. So step 1, start at your pace. I know everyone is telling you that intermittent fasting is you start eating at 12 p.m. and you stop eating at 8 p.m. And so you have an 8-hour eating window and then the rest of the time you fast. And it's like, well, and I sleep for 6 or 7 hours, so maybe I'll be okay, right? But I always say, if you are going from eating breakfast at 8 a.m., eating lunch at noon, eating dinner, having snacks throughout the day, and then having dinner at like 6 or 7, this can be tough for you, right? Especially to jump right into it and think, I'm just gonna do this, right? Because when we do that, it becomes a diet. I'm doing this intermittent fasting diet, right? And it's no longer a lifestyle. It's not a lifestyle. So you do it until the diet ends and then you're done, right? It's so funny because I host challenges, right? And in our intermittent fasting challenge, that's one of the things that we talk about is, how do you make this a lifestyle? How do you do this longer than just this 21 days, right? Because you want to be able to see the results and you want to feel the things that you're feeling. So you're feeling good. You got more energy. You're feeling more like you can actually do this thing. You're actually losing some weight. You know, things are starting to open up for you, meaning like mentally you're starting to feel good. And so you're like, you know what? I can keep doing this. But here's the thing. Many times people stop and then all those results stop. And it's like, dang it, how did I get back to this? So if you start where you are, you can have so much better results. So what does that mean? Basically, instead of starting with this whole 16-8, meaning fasting 16 hours, eating 8 hours, you start with 12-12. Right? 12-12 can be done. So what does that mean? That means you're eating for 12 hours a day and you're fasting for 12 hours a day. Remember, this is just a start, right? And you get to start where you are versus starting where somebody else is. That's how you get results on your journey, right? So you go 12-12. So that means that maybe your eating window is from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. So you wake up in the morning and you have your first meal at 8 a.m. Maybe you wake up at 7. You have your first meal at 8, and then you have breakfast, whatever, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and you're done. By 8 p.m. you don't eat anything else. So now you've created these guidelines for yourself that actually work for you. And maybe you do that for 3 or 4 weeks. And then you're like, you know what? I've got this 12-12 down. I'm gonna move to 14-10. I had to think about the numbers. I'm gonna move to 14-10, right? I'm going to fast for 14 hours and eat in a 10-hour window. So maybe you start your eating now at 10 a.m. and you go from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And that's your eating window. Or maybe you're like, you know what? I can stop eating earlier. So maybe you go from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., whatever that window looks like for you. But you have that opportunity to start where you are versus starting where you think you're supposed to be, right? And guess what? When you start like that, it lasts longer. So there was a woman in our Fit Mommy Makeover community. Her name is Jenna, and what she did was she actually, and she's okay with me telling the story, but what she did was she started like this. She started where she was. She started with, I think she started with like 11-13, right? Where she was fasting for 11 hours and eating for 13. So that just meant eating from, I think it was like 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., right? And she saw that quickly she could move that forward because she started her day earlier. So that's why she was eating at 7 a.m. But she realized that she could move that forward and fast at a faster pace. So within 3 weeks, she was already at 16-8s, right? Fasting 16 hours, eating during an 8-hour window. And she ended up losing, I think it was 12 pounds in about 6 weeks from doing this, from intermittent fasting. That's all she was doing, is we were working on intermittent fasting, right? And it's super doable when you start where you are. And one of the things that Jenna had said was, I had tried intermittent fasting before and I couldn't last out. I couldn't stick it out past 2 weeks. I could never stick it out past 2 weeks. And she said this 6 weeks in. She said, because I kept trying to just jump right into it and it wouldn't work for me. So starting where she was helped her to actually see results. So that's step number one, or tip number one. Start where you are. So tip number two is guidance. Actually get an idea of what you're doing. So this could be watching YouTube videos. This could be doing some research. Get an understanding, an idea of what intermittent fasting is and why it works. Have someone that you can ask questions to, because what happens is many times people just jump right into something, and you've done it before. You've heard about keto or paleo or whatever, and you're like, I'm just gonna do it. You read 3 lines about it and heard that it helped your cousin's best friend lose weight, and you were like, forget it, I'm about to try this thing, right? And you've probably done that with intermittent fasting. Somebody said, oh yeah, you just eat for 8 hours and you don't eat for 16 hours and you're fine, and you lose a bunch of weight. And you're like, okay, cool. But no one talked about what you should be eating to break your fast. No one's talking about what to eat during these 8 hours that are actually gonna be ideal for you. No one's talking about hitting your nutritional, your calorie intake and your protein intake to ensure that you're maintaining your muscle mass. Like, people aren't talking about that. They're just telling you eat for 8 hours and don't eat for 16, right? And so this is why step 2 is so important. Because the people that lose this weight and keep it off and sustain their results long term, they've done some research, they've had some support and guidance, right? What does that mean? So it could literally mean being in some sort of community and, being able to ask questions to the other people in that community. It could be being on YouTube and just doing a bunch of research on YouTube on intermittent fasting, right? It could literally be, talking to multiple people that you know who do intermittent fasting. But I will give a caveat there, right? So you may have friends who do intermittent fasting on a regular basis, but because this isn't what they do for, like, they haven't necessarily studied health and understand why it works, how it works, and the best ways to do it, or work with different people, what happens is they're going to give you advice based on them, and you're not them. So I would definitely lean into connecting with someone who's actually either done a ton of research on it and or have worked with a lot of people, which means you have to have done the research, right? Because can you imagine if you work with a bunch of people and you haven't done any research, you haven't done any studies, right? That would be nuts. But, really connecting, getting that guidance from someone who knows what they're talking about. Someone who's either done it, currently doing it, and has been doing it for a long period of time, seen results, sustained results, and has done their research, and or has worked with other people. And that was one of the things that we've heard about is, oh, I did it before. My cousin was telling me about it, about intermittent fasting. And so I just did it the way she did it. And I was like, oh, really? So how did it work out? And I remember hearing, there was this one woman who was telling me, she's like, it went well. I lost 50 pounds. And I was like, oh, shoot, nice. I mean, that's amazing. And she was like, well, I gained it all back. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, because what happened was she lost all that weight. And she didn't say these words. The word she said was, I gained it all back. I was still doing intermittent fasting, but the weight was no longer coming off. And then, once she lost 50 pounds, and then it started coming back. And so what she started doing was trying to eat less and less, thinking that it was going to make the weight continue to go away, and it just wasn't. And so, I was sitting there with her, this is a couple years ago actually, but I was sitting there with her and I was telling her why that was happening. And the likelihood was, of course I asked some questions, but the likelihood was that basically she hadn't been getting enough protein in, she hadn't been getting enough calories in, and so so she was losing weight, but she was losing muscle and fat. She wasn't just losing fat. And so when she was eating after that, basically when you're losing muscle and fat, it impacts your metabolism. So your metabolism actually slows down, and that happens to a lot of people who do intermittent fasting. The metabolism slows down because you're not eating the way you're supposed to, as much as you're supposed to, or in the way you're supposed to. And that's why guidance is so important. So when I shared that with her, she still had a lot of work to do because her metabolism had completely slowed down. So she had to work to really reverse what had happened in her metabolism and get it back moving again. And we went through a whole process to do that, but she had to get it back moving again and then get going with intermittent fasting again in the right way. So this is why guidance is so important versus just talking to your cousin and being like, oh girl, you did it, okay, I'm gonna do the same thing, because your cousin don't know if her metabolism slowed down, or she might be doing something extra that she didn't mention because she didn't think to mention it. You know, a lot of times people are just doing stuff and they don't necessarily mention the extra stuff that they're doing. So guidance, super, super important. All right. The third step when you are starting intermittent fasting, when you're just getting going and you're like, I wanted to stick this time. I tried it before and it didn't stick before. This time I'm going to make it work. All right. I've said this. This is why I know that you're saying this, because I have said this. Remember, I was on a diet from age 8 to age 38. You know, well, I guess it was 37, but still close enough. It sounds better to say 8 to 38. It doesn't matter. So I was on a diets for that long. So I know all the words, right? All the things that we say to ourselves, all of this stuff, I have said it and I've done it. All right. So anyways, so the third thing to starting intermittent fasting and being successful in it, right? Starting this journey of weight loss and intermittent fasting and being successful in it long term, right? Because you want to feel better, you want to have more energy, you want to feel like you again. I can't tell you how many women I heard say, I want to feel like me again. And I can't tell you how many times I said, I want to feel like me again. And what was funny is, when I sat back, I didn't even know what me felt like, but that's a whole nother conversation, you know, but that's the thing, right? We get to do that. That hit. I didn't know what me felt like, because it's so true. That's a thing. I need to make a whole video on that. I do have Always a Fat Girl where I talk about a lot of that, but I didn't know what me felt like because I'd always been on a diet. And so you got, like, think about what that means for you, right? Anyways, let's go into step 3. This is so me. Okay, so step 3 is accountability and community, right? I'll say it again, all right? Accountability and community. Listen, y'all, this is super key on this journey, or any journey, right? When you're doing intermittent fasting, right? And we talked about this at the beginning, right? You started on Monday, because diets only start on Monday, right? So you started on Monday, and when you started, you were like, okay, I'm gonna get this intermittent fasting thing going, and you were gonna do 12 to 8, right? So 16-8. So eating window started at 12 p.m. and you're gonna eat only till 8 p.m. and be done. And you found yourself at 10 a.m. starving, right? You had all this, and you're like, what the heck? I'm starving. Oh, right? Dang it. Okay, I'm gonna hold out 2 more hours, right? And you start eating at 12, and then your eating window closed at 8, and you were like, 8:37, you sitting there in the pantry fighting not to get it, right? Fighting not to grab something. That's where accountability and community comes in, right? That's where it comes in. And the reason it comes in right there is the community does is in these situations, and we do this in our Fit Mommy Makeover membership, right? This is a situation, it's 8:37, you're at the pantry. You grab your phone and you're like, ladies, I'm struggling, right? It's 8:37, I'm still hungry. Clearly I didn't get enough to eat today. What can I do? And we are right there for you, right? Right there with you if we don't have a live Zoom call that day, right? Because we Zoom live in this group, but we're right there with you. And so whatever community that is for you, maybe it's not Fit Mommy Makeover, maybe it's something else, but whatever that community is for you, having that community and accountability to support you in those moments and say, hey, instead of eating whatever's in that pantry, do this instead. Grab this instead, drink this instead, whatever, right? Because we're there for you. I've been there. So many of us have been there. And so many are on this journey still that we can give you that support that you need versus, versus just being alone, right? Because one thing I say all the time is that no one who's lost weight and kept it off successfully did it by themselves. And that includes me. And every other influencer or whoever you see online who's lost a significant amount of weight, right? I mean, those women who you see who were always thin or, always in good shape, and now they're a personal trainer and so they just lift weights or whatever, they might have done it by themselves. I don't know how that works, right? I'm gonna be honest. But the moms out here and these the other women who are busy and like have tons of priorities, we have not done it by ourselves. We had a community and accountability and support and guidance, right? We had a team basically on this journey with us. So, because so many people, they'll have a team, but the team will start to drop off. I know that happened to me. I had a team at first, you know, a couple friends in the neighborhood, our neighbor group getting together. We were working out and, you know, talking about what we're eating and all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden I felt like about 3, and we actually lasted quite a long time. We lasted about 3 months together. And then like month 4, I'm texting them like, where y'all at? And everybody had life stuff or other priorities, and I'm by myself trying to keep this thing going. So that's when I joined a community. I joined a boot camp, and we did it together. You know, and I was able to do it. A couple of my friends joined the boot camp, which was amazing because now we're doing it together as a community and we're paying somebody, right? That is a thing. I don't care what anybody says, is when you have a community, when you have others who are invested, even if it's a low amount, like our Fit Mommy Makeover membership, it's pennies. It's less than what you would spend at Chick-fil-A if you went right now for lunch, right? So it's about that price. But anyways, so it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like having that community and accountability. So now when you're standing in front of the pantry at 8:37 p.m., we got your back. We're giving you options. We're supporting you, and then giving you grace if you do, you know, if you do one time, like, hey, you know, I came in too late. My eating window is going to end at 9 today. You know what? We're working through that. And then we talk about, okay, so what could you do differently next time? Like, this is important because this journey is important. We get to be healthy, right? So that accountability and support and community is super key on this journey. And so if you're currently looking for a community, go to fitmommymakeover.net. And you'll find our community where we're doing these things, all right? Because it is so important. It's super important to prioritize our health as moms, as women who are prioritizing everything else and everybody else, right? Like you may be like, well, I'm not a mom, so what? I mean, so maybe you didn't want, I've worked with so many people who haven't wanted to be moms, and that's okay. Maybe you're not a mom, but you're likely still not putting you first. Work came first, right? You were up till midnight last night working, or taking care of your nieces and nephews, or your parents, or your husband, or your this person or that person, all came first. This is what, I don't know why we do this, but we tend to. So now we get to prioritize our health. Our health is the thing that needs to come first. Having accountability and community helps you with that. Because once you were at that pantry at 8:37 p.m. and we gave you advice on what to do, the next thing we do is, okay, we'll put up your accountability post on what you're gonna do the rest of this week and how you're gonna overcome if something like that happens again. Like, we literally talk about these things because it's important, right? So get you a community that's gonna give you that accountability and that support to keep you going on this journey. That is the third thing, and that is huge on this journey, all right? So I hope that helped. Be sure to subscribe. How cool are you watching to the end of the video? And if you were looking for a community, go to fitmommymakeover.net and hop in with us. We got you, all right? We're gonna give you that guidance, support, community, and accountability to keep you going on this journey. All right, so looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video, and let's keep this thing going, all right? Let's get healthy together. Take care.
Don't forget to subscribe. Be sure to watch my mom's next video.